Welcome to this week's edition of the Construction CPA's Coffee Cafe. I am the Construction CPA, Lisa Raish. We are dropping the hammer on cash flow problems so you can build things that matter. This week's topic is going to be why using job cost reports to improve bids matters. And this is going to be the fourth topic in our January series, which is all about cleaning up, setting up, and just having good job costing foundations so that you can use January to build on for the rest of your year and have a good, solid, profitable year. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? All right, so bids. And this is a really big thing for many of our clients. This can be just the bid process alone can be a hit or miss for them. So we want to help you find ways to kind of dial that in so that you are not only profitable in general, but you're profitable on all of your projects by getting ahead of it and bidding on it properly. So, what if, we talked a little bit more and we said, your past jobs could actually tell you how much your price should be on your next bid, to tell you how accurate it is or more profitable it is. Would you actually believe that? So today we're going to talk about your job costing. And this is kind of on top of what we talked about last week. Again, we talked about job costing, but now we're actually using this for something because I keep telling you we want to use this data for something. What are we using it for? We want to use it for our bids, right? So we want to help you and use those job cost reports so you can stop, because some of you, I think, honestly guess on your bids. You're like, the wind's blowing this way today and I'm going to bid this much. So let's start actually using the information that you can pull out of your business and use that data for something good, which is creating that next bid so that you can be profitable on that next project. So just drop it in the chat if you want to talk more about stronger bids for this year. All right, so why does this matter? So most bids are based on a gut feel, finger in the air, which way is the wind blowing today, or even outdated numbers. We've worked with clients here. I had a client at one point that was actually using headcount costs that were 3 years old in his bids. All of those employees that he was using the information for had all gotten increases over those 3 years. So they were actually making more money now than what he was actually using in his bid process. So again, you want to make sure that you're actually using good quality numbers and not outdated numbers. So a job cost is simply going to show you what has actually happened. It doesn't show you what you estimated on it. So that's where the job costing, now we're taking that information. What did you bid on a project? In many cases, you have different line items in the project that you've broken it out into various line items. So you want to use that information from your job cost to compare against that data from that bid that you have. Did I over or underbid on various line items on the actual bid? Did I over or underbid in aggregate on the entire project, right? Now we're using that information to actually determine what is going to be a good number for bidding moving forward. And if you don't review these job costs, if you just track them and you kind of put them to the side, what tends to happen is they repeat the same mistakes over and over again. And so if you've made the mistake, for example, using 3-year-old data for your head count when you're building out your bidding and you're not using current data, you're just going to be underbidding project after project, right? So you're just using bad data. So number one, you need to use that job cost data for something, but you've got to make sure that what you're using is actually good information to build out those bids. And it's going to help you to protect your margins. Far too many of you are just not making the margins you should because you consistently underbid on projects because you don't have good, solid information that you're working from, or you have it or you just actually don't use it. We see that too. Oh, I have the job cost info, but we don't actually use it moving forward, right? So again, your past projects are going to be some of the best tools that you're going to use when you are building out the bids for your upcoming projects, because that's real information, right? That's actually what happened. I can see historically on this one line item on the last 5 projects, I've underbid on this line item. So now you can say, oh, okay, now I need to make sure that on this line item, I bid appropriately on this next project, right? So that's what we're looking to get you to, that point where you're using that information for something important, which is going to be your next batch of bids. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what a job cost actually shows you. It's going to show you your actual labor hours, and you want to compare it against what you estimated. I estimated it was going to be 3 guys for 25 hours. It ended up being 3 guys for 37 hours. That's what you want to be able to look at, not just the dollar amount, but things like the hours. That's super important, especially when if you're in the type of business where you're really building out and you're thinking about how many hours it's going to take to do a project. Your material costs, what you actually spent versus what you estimated. Again, did your material costs go up? Did you underestimate how much it was going to cost? Did you not factor in enough of the extra, the kind of throwaway stuff that ends up, getting tossed? Are you not considering that, right? That's all important, right? So this is what your job cost is going to show you. It's going to show you what your contractors cost you. And then at the end, you're going to be able to see what your total margin was on the project. The revenue you earned, less all the cost associated with it and the margin. Now, what you'll also be able to see is what you anticipated the revenue to be, what you anticipated the cost to be, i.e., what you estimated, and what you thought the margin was going to be. That's the other thing you want to look at too. What did I think my margin was going to be, and where did I actually land? This is what you need to take and learn from so that you can use it in your next bid. All right. So, what are you looking for in your reports? So, you're looking at where did your labor run over or under? Did your labor run over entirely on the entire project? Maybe on one specific line item? You might actually see that over 5 or 6 projects, that actually one line item you've run over and now you need to adjust, right? These are the things you want to be looking for. Again, did your materials cost more than you expected? Have the prices for materials gone up? In the last couple of years, materials prices have kind of fluctuated. In some cases, at one point, lumber was obscenely expensive. And you could get aluminum inexpensively. And now aluminum's expensive, but lumber's not as expensive, right? What actually happened in the project? Because sometimes you also have a lapse of time between when you bid on it and when you actually are performing the project. So you want to make sure that you understand what you actually estimated for the materials. Did the job look profitable, right? It looked profitable when you bid it out, but it wasn't. So again, where was it not profitable? And now you want to take this one project and you want to compare it against all the other ones, the last 3, 4, 5 that you have. And now you're looking for patterns. Do you historically underestimate on 1 or 2 line items? Do you historically underestimate across the board? That's what you're looking for. In many cases, you're going to start to see patterns in how you bid out and where your costs actually landed. And that's what you want to be able to learn from. All right. So now how are we going to take this and we're going to apply this to our future bids, right? So now we're just going to simply think about, we're going to adjust our labor assumptions. It's historically taken 35 hours to do this one type of thing across these last 5 projects. I've bid 25. The next project, we are going to bid 35. That's the number. We're going to adjust our labor assumptions. We're going to update our materials allowances. Maybe you want to put some cushion in there because you can see that the prices are fluctuating on some of your materials. You can also see that this project maybe isn't going to start in 3 weeks. It might be 3, 4, 6 months, right? So let's see if there's going to be some flux in our materials prices. We want to make sure we can kind of pad that in there. And that also goes back to the contingency planning, right? There are always things that are going to pop up in these projects that you weren't expecting, right? So again, do you have a cushion in there for some type of contingency plan, right? And then for your jobs, they need to be based on reality, right? Not hope. I hope this project is going to X, Y, Z. No, you need to price your jobs on the reality that you have, which is the data you have. So you need to place those bids in that reality. And the other thing is, we see far too often where people actually underbid on purpose in order to quote unquote get a project to get themselves out of cash flow problems because they're looking to get more revenue in the door. And therefore it just creates more cash flow problems because now you have a project that was never meant to be profitable. You were just trying to get some cash in the door. So again, you need to peg your pricing on actualities, right? Real things that you can truly create, real things that you can truly produce, and actually be profitable at it, not just bring money in the door. All right. And why is this? Why does this beat guessing? And again, guessing is no fun. And guessing is really hard to be realistic about it. Um, it's going to give you more consistent margins, right? You don't want to be 20% on one project, 15 on another, 35 on another. You're all over the place, right? We want to see you get consistent in your margins, consistent with whatever portion of the construction industry you're in. You want to see that consistency. Again, I personally, when I'm looking at what clients are doing, I'm not looking at an EKG model. Like I'm not looking for that heart rate to do this. That makes it very hard for a client to find any real consistency in their business. So we want to make sure that we're using this data to build out good qualified quality information so that you can build out a good solid bid that you're profitable on, right? That you're actually making money on. You're not just throwing more money and more debt into your business. Why does it beat guessing? Because it's fewer surprises for you. No one wants to be surprised at the end of a project that it wasn't profitable, right? So again, don't guess on a project, use the data that you have. And if you don't have the data, start tracking it because it's going to help you. And at the end, it's just going to make you more confident in your bidding. Again, no one wants to, put the finger in the air and figure out, oh, okay, this is what I think I'm going to bid today, right? That doesn't help you and that doesn't help you become profitable. And for those of you that are struggling and you're not actually able to pay yourself or pay yourself what you're worth, you're now taking away from being able to pay yourself. So really take that information and use it and be confident with the bids that you're putting in moving forward because you know you're going to be profitable on these projects. So what are some of the things that you can actually do today, right? Some of these takeaways for today, right? First, make sure you review your job cost reports after each job is completed. Now you should be reviewing your job cost as the project progresses because you want to be able to get ahead of any fluxes that you potentially could. But let's just say you're not doing that at all. You want to look at the project in its entirety at the end to see exactly what happened in that. It just makes it easier for you. You do a quick review, but that quick review really makes a difference because you can use what little bit that you learned from that to move into that next bit, right? What else can you do? You want to compare your estimated versus your actual costs. It's great if you are tracking your costs, but what if you're not actually comparing it to what you bid on it? It's kind of, you only have half the story there. So you really want to make sure you're looking at your bid versus your actual because it's going to help you to improve where you've had issues, right? That improvement is going to matter on that next bid because you're going to take it into consideration and help yourself become more profitable on the next project. What else can you do? You want to look for patterns, not one-off mistakes. And in many cases, you probably are going to find patterns. You historically underbid on this one item. You historically think it's going to take less hours than it does, whatever it is. You want to start to look at those trends because those trends that you're going to start to see in your projects are what now you can flush into that next bid. What else can you do? You can use this job cost data and to update your overall estimating process, right? So we're taking this real information. I know that I've historically underbid on this piece, that piece, that piece. I'm now making revisions to my estimating process moving forward because I've learned from what I did in the past that didn't work for me, right? Your estimates and the way you estimate also and what things you take into consideration are always going to evolve, right? Because that data that you're going to be getting is going to continue to improve and is going to help you to improve that overall estimation process. So when you use your job cost reports, you're not just stuffing them in a drawer like, okay, I don't do anything with them. No, you're using those reports. You're going to use them to bid better on that next project and all the projects subsequent to that. And then in the end, your profit just becomes more predictable. It's not a, finger in the air, I guess, on the bid, and then, oh, I might be profitable on that, right? Now you're starting to build out some things that you can actually bank on. I know this, and this is going to happen because I've made these revisions to my estimates. So you really want to be using those job cost reports, not just kind of stuffing them in the drawer when the project is done. You want to learn from them. So they can, your job cost reports are going to help you to learn a lot, not only about your past jobs, but what you're going to bid on in the future and just becoming more profitable, but also consistently profitable and not so much of those big fluctuations, right? So next week, we're going to be talking a little bit more about your process of actually reviewing the cost consistently. So we're talking about how you can use that data, but how do you actually use that data to build out that information in a better fashion? As always, I look forward to seeing you here every week. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.